Have you ever noticed that sometimes it's really hard to give up a bad habit, and even though you move away from it, you actually keep going back to it? That's because of one of the rules of the mind. So I'm Marisa Peer, and I want you to watch this rule of your mind so that you can make good habits part of your life and bad habits part of your history. One of the things that therapists like me find so vexing when we're trying to help our clients is that your mind loves what it already knows. In fact, the mind wants to go back to what is familiar. And it also wants to totally resist what is unfamiliar. If you've ever been a parent, you know that when children go, I don't like that, it's got lumps in it. I only want pink yogurt in the same red bowl. I want the same story every night. Why do they do that? Because at exactly the age when your kid could have wandered out into the prairie, wandered out into the village and picked berries. They only eat what they already know because that's how they stayed alive. And that's very clever. And we just have an extended version of what 2-year-olds do. We like what we know. You know, many years ago, I worked on a show with this girl who had a really bad time with relationships. Men treated her badly, abused her, spent her money. And she said, wherever I go, I always attract losers. That's the only men that like me and that I seem to like too. And it was all to do with her father who treated her very badly. And she said, you know, it was amazing. After that session, I went out with my friends, same place I always go, and I met this really nice guy. He was so different. He asked me out. He bought me dinner, told me I was amazing, asked to see me again. I'm never seeing him again. I said, why not? She went, oh, he's too good for me. And I said, no. What you actually said without knowing is his behavior is so unfamiliar, I don't recognize it. And so I'm going to go back to what I know, people who treat me badly. But you have a choice now. You can say, you know what? I could make this familiar. She ended up marrying him because I made her say, I'm making this familiar. This is a good guy, can make it familiar. And it just isn't in relationships. Imagine if you've never been praised. People always say, oh, you're an idiot. Oh, you're stupid. And your family do that as a joke, but you never get praised. The day someone says, hey, you look amazing. You go, me? Oh no, this old thing, I've had it for years. Or someone might say, hey, I heard you're the best salesperson in your team. Oh, not really. Someone else is much better, but they were sick that week. Or, hey, I loved your talk. Really? Didn't you notice all the things I said wrong? No, I thought it was great. That is the saddest thing about humans, that if we don't get praise, it's so unfamiliar. And when it turns out, we start to reject it. If you want to change your life today, here's one thing that can change your life powerfully. Let in praise and begin to praise yourself. There is nothing on the planet that will raise your self-esteem more than praise. Nothing that will diminish it more than letting in criticism. When someone says, hey, I love that piece, you say, thank you so much. When someone says, hey, I love that thing you're great, say, thank you, I love it too. When someone says, you look great, say, thank you. You expand when you let in praise, and you contract when you let in criticism. We all want to expand into growth. So I want you to make praise familiar. Do not let in criticism. You know, I sat in my office many years ago with an incredibly famous film director. When he came in, I said, oh, you know, I loved that film. He said, oh, it was terrible. And I said, I thought it got an Oscar. Well, it did, but there were no good Oscar nominations there. So, well, you know, the second film, my father took me to see that film when I was a teen. I loved it. He said, that was even worse. And I went, oh, you can't accept praise, can you? He went, no. And that was the cause of his Great Depression. He'd won many Oscars, done many amazing things, couldn't let him praise. I started to ask him to let him praise, and you'd think I'd asked him to stick a needle in his eyeball because he was so resistant, but eventually I got him to say, I love making movies. I've made Oscar-winning movies. It wasn't easy, but as he said it, he began to realize that all his achievements meant nothing because he couldn't let him praise. But when he was able to say, I have an incredible gift for making films that give people pleasure, because his films gave me so much pleasure, I can still remember them vividly. So all of his depression and unhappiness came from one thing: he could not let him praise. He didn't believe he was worthy of it. Not only did he not let it in, he actually added criticism. That was terrible. That was the wrong location. The leading lady was miscast. And it really was hurting his mental health. So today, I want you to do something amazing for yourself. I want you to let in praise. I want you to start praising yourself. I'm a good person. I'm kind. I'm interesting. Whatever it is, say it, let it in. You see, if someone else praises you, they might have an agenda, but when you praise yourself, there is no agenda. So let in praise and just let criticism go over your head unless it's constructive. What is it that you have not made familiar that you could make familiar? You see, if we make a list now, believing in myself, getting up early, applying myself, taking sugar out of my coffee. All these things become easy. When you first take sugar out of your coffee, it tastes hideous. Then later you think, I can't believe I drank it with 4 sugars. It's disgusting. So here's the fact. The human mind loves what is familiar and wishes to go back to it over and over again. But here's another fact. You can choose exactly what to make familiar and exactly what to make unfamiliar. So let's make self-praise familiar, and let's make criticizing ourselves unfamiliar, because it can change your entire life. And the wonderful thing is that the more you do it, the easier it is. The easier it is, the more you do it, until this isn't even what you do. This becomes who you are. Now you are winning at life, because you make good stuff familiar and bad stuff unfamiliar. Remember to help each other out. Put in the comments what you've already made familiar and how it's changed your life, what you might have made unfamiliar. Something as simple as flossing your teeth. Our grandparents never did that. What are you making familiar? And what are you going to make? What advice can you give to others? What have you made familiar? What will you make familiar? And what have you made unfamiliar? And what else are you going to make unfamiliar? And don't forget to subscribe so that you can learn all the rules of your mind to help yourself and to help the people around you too. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.